Okay, so now what I've done is I've located all the cue points that I need to make the song, and I've loaded them all into channels. Now the channels that you see from intro all the way to horns right here, this block, are the samples. And what I've done is I've just given them a name so I kind of have some reference point as to what they are. For example, intro is that part. And, you know, oh baby is that part. So you can see then I've got a few of the hit sounds that are in the song, and then the horn part. And that's where all the samples are. Above that, I've got 4 channels where I've got a hi-hat, a kick drum or bass drum, a snare sound, and a crash cymbal. And that's because those are the sounds that I hear in the Cameron version that I need to add. In addition to that, there's a bass layer, which doesn't quite fit on the screen. Let me do this. There's a bass layer which is composed of a sample bass, which sounds crappy at a higher pitch, and a 303 bass. It's actually a 303 patch for the 3X oscillator generator that's built into FL Studio, which you can hear there. And then both of those are set to this particular layer. Okay, so that's where my bass sound is coming from. And then I have a xylophone sound font, because there's a xylophone sound in the Cameron version that I could not find it in the Rolls-Royce version, so I think it was just added later. I don't know if it was sampled from another album or just played on the keys, but I've done my best to replicate the notes that it's playing. Okay, so there's all my instruments, and then let's go look at the parts, the patterns. I've only done the intro and 4 bars, and then I repeated those 4 bars again to give it a little bit extra length to the song. But the intro is really simple. All I need to do is play that intro part and then play the Oh Baby sample, and that's what you see here. It's 1 bar long, so that's what's going to play here. Sounds like this. Okay, and then it started to play again. Just ignore that horn hit that happened again. But anyway, so that's the intro, part 1. Here's the intro, part 2. And on the part 2 intro, you can see that it's hitting on the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. The bass is following along. And then there's that xylophone sound I mentioned that's playing somewhat of an arpeggio type deal. But it's as close as I could get it within the time frame I had to try to figure this out. I probably could have done a closer sample, but this is what you get. Okay, so then there's the xylophone. There's everything together. So now I'm going to play this pattern. Okay, and the only thing that I did extra to this pattern that you can't see is the horns actually have a build-up. And if I go into this graph here, it's going to show me the velocity. And if I select the horn channel, you'll see on this hit the horn is low. On this hit the horn is about halfway. On this one it's about 75% of the highest peak. And then on this last one it's right there. And that's the default level. I could even go louder if I wanted to, but that's the default level. So you can see I'm basically building up the horn. And that's the only thing that I've done that you can't see on the screen. Okay, so those two patterns together make up the intro. If we go into the playlist, I'm just going to play those two patterns one time through. Okay, so you could hear that that's the intro. Then from there, the Cameron version kicks off into the verse, and I've done the verse in two other patterns, and each pattern is 2 bars long, and I like to work in 2 bars myself, so that's why I've done it this way. And normally, if I was creating this song from scratch, I wouldn't put everything into the same pattern. I might have my drums all together in one pattern, and maybe some of the hits that might belong together in the same pattern, but I definitely would have had my bass in its own pattern and the xylophone in its own pattern. But I just wanted to create this quickly and demonstrate the technique of doing it more than doing it the right way. And remember, I'm recreating something, so it's a lot different when you're recreating something. I think it's easier to recreate something than to come up with something unique sometimes. But anyway, so here's what you see. The drums, as I mentioned, are the first 4 instruments. We've got our kick, our crash, our snare, and our hat going on. Now, in the song itself, one of the signature samples that you hear is this part that says, "Oh boy." And in the Rolls-Royce version, that's not even there. There's an O for "Oh baby," and there's a boy. And what Just Blaze did is he put them together. So what you see on this channel and on this channel are the "Oh baby" and the boy hits on the 2s and the 4s. And then the "Oh baby," what I've done is over here is I've played it, but I've chopped it so that it just says the O part. And one of the things I had to do to make that work was to give my instrument or my sample an envelope. Without the envelope, if I hit a key and I let go, it plays the whole sample. So I'm going to just tap this key. And you can hear that it played the whole sample. But with my envelope turned on, what this is telling it is to play, and then when I release the key, fade out really quickly and stop playing the sample. So now watch. When I do the same click, I'm going to just click the key and let go. And you can see now I can cut the sample off without playing it all the way through. And that's what I want. So that's what I've done there. And then that'll only play the O part of the sample, and then we'll have the boy part playing on the next channel. These hits coming in here, I've done kind of the same thing as far as the fading out. But basically, this sound is one of the sounds that fills up the background of the Cameron version. Okay, and that plays, you can see in a certain pattern. It plays here, 2 hits here, 2 hits there, 1, 2, and then it repeats back. And the kick drum follows this pattern very closely. If you look at hit 1 and B drum 12, you can see that the pattern is very close. It's a little bit different right here, but otherwise it follows it almost directly. Hit 2 and hit 4 are just slightly different samples that are in the song at a different pitch that just kind of help keep things a little interesting. And then hit 3 is a higher pitch, slightly higher pitch sample that I heard, and I've tried to replicate this the best that I could. So it might not be 100% exact, but you know, it's close. It's very close. Okay, then here's my layer with my bass drum, and my bass drum with my bass line, I should say. My bass line follows my kick drum and the hit one also. You can't tell it as much because it's in a piano roll, but it does. And the reason why I put it in the piano roll is because I needed to chop the bass sounds so that it wasn't just this long, you know, sustained note. I needed the notes to be short and kind of choppy, and that's why I did that. Then we have the xylophone sound, which doesn't play until the end of the bar, and it does this little like fill at the end of the second bar in this pattern. And then that all plays, and it sounds like this. Okay, and then if we solo, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to solo these hits so you can hear what they sound like played together, because they really do fill up the back of that song, the background of that song. Okay, and then that, along with the drums and everything else, really helps to bring it all together, and the bass line too. Bass lines are really important in sampled music. A lot of times they're made, I mean, they're just played. They're not sampled bass lines, and it really helps because it's usually much clearer, and it really is the glue that keeps everything together. Okay, so there's my bar, my first two bars of the verse, and here's the second two. The second two, they have this slightly busier pattern. It looks slightly busier in the first half, and then the second half, it's a bunch of hits again, just like we saw in the intro, only it's a little bit different, but very similar. And this sounds like this. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. You know, it took me a while to figure out where the sounds go, and I had to listen to the Cameron version over and over and over again. It wasn't really that fun to do, but I'm really happy with the result. So what I want to do now is just play the whole thing through for you, so you can hear what it all sounds like together, and we'll see, you know, if it's close or not. Okay, now that we've heard that, one point that I want to stress to you is that the goal here is not to be like Just Blaze. You know, the goal in recreating some of these songs is not to be like a Dr. Dre or a Scott Storch or a Timbo or whoever. The goal is just to look at the techniques that they may have used to get to where they are, to get the song to where it is. And in this case, obviously, I don't think Just Blaze is using FL Studio. But by doing it, by trying to recreate this song, you know, I've learned some skills in FL Studio that helped me get to that point. And that's really the important thing that you should take from this lesson. And that's, you know, learn the technique, let your style come through, because you need to have your own style. If you try to copy someone, you're just going to sound like someone. It's not going to be you, and, you know, why should anybody listen to it? Because if you sound like Dre, they can go listen to Dre. If you sound like Kanye, they can go listen to Kanye. You know, they don't need you. But if you sound like you, when Kanye doesn't sound like you, and Dre doesn't sound like you, and Blaze doesn't sound like you, well, then they have to come to you to get that sound. So while it's fun to recreate these things, really don't try to be someone else. Just be yourself, and if people are feeling it, it's going to happen for you. And if people aren't feeling it, then it's not going to happen, and you're just going to have to accept that. But all that preaching aside, I hope that you've learned something here, and can take this information and build off it and do something really cool with it. If you have any questions or comments for me, please hit me up on my website message board. The website is www.warbeats.com. It's a free site. You just have to register, give a valid email so you can get the verification code. But I'm not going to spam you or anything like that. I just need a site where I can kind of control the flow of this information. You know, somewhere where I can upload this and present it to you in a way that is useful. So anyway, so go to my site. You know, there's more tutorials. If you happen to get this video somehow, go to my site, check it out, and I'll see you around.